post-production. On tonight's horror story, we'll be talking about the wrong memory. A horror story so scary that you'll be forced to subscribe, because I heard 80% of people who watch these videos are not. I hope you enjoy. I remembered the red swing most of all. It was one of those old metal framed sets with chains that pinched your fingers if you grabbed the wrong link. In my memory, it sat in the middle of a field behind our house. A field of long, uncut grass that hissed in the wind. The swing seat was slick red plastic, cracked at the edges, and there was always mud under it, even in summer. In the memory, it was dusk. My sister, Lily, was on the swing, dragging her bare feet through the mud. "Push me higher," she said. I remember hesitating. Mum said not to, "You'll fall." She turned and grinned at me, her hair tangled and wild, eyes too bright. "You're not my boss, Noah." The air smelled like rain and hot metal. Frogs croaked somewhere beyond the tall grass. I stepped behind her and set my hands on the cold chains. She bumped her legs and I pushed, and the world blurred. Higher, higher. The sky bruised purple overhead. I remember the moment, her laughing, the chains squealing, the arc of her swing getting too high. I pushed once more and lost my grip. The swing shot forward. For a heartbeat, she seemed suspended in the air, hair fanned, out behind her like ink in water. Then she slipped. I remember the sound of her body hitting the ground, a wet, sick crack that still wakes me at night. I remember screaming until my throat burned. I remember kneeling beside her, my hands shaking as I turned her over, her neck at an angle. Her neck shouldn't bend. Her eyes were open, but empty, staring past me at the darkening sky. I remember my mother running through the grass, my father behind her. I remember the sirens. I remember the ambulance lights strobing against the red swing, painting it the colour of fresh blood. It's the clearest memory of my childhood, except Lily isn't dead. She texted me last Tuesday, asking if I was coming to her baby shower. The first time I realised something was wrong, I was standing in line at the pharmacy, clutching a bottle of off-brand painkillers and a box of melatonin. The nightmares had been bad that week. Endless repeats of the red swing and Lily's neck You alive? The contact phone was recent. Lily, 32, blonde hair and a messy bun, mascara smudged at the edges, holding a mug that said, "Will's okay, sister." Behind her, I could see the awful floral wallpaper in her apartment. Define alive. She sent back a selfie. She was in a hospital room, gown on, eyes rolling. They're stealing my blood. Also, baby is the size of the pineapple. Get your ass here this weekend, please. I stared at the screen until the man behind me cleared his throat, reminding me to shuffle forward for a second. The world tilted. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step. Lily couldn't be in a hospital room. She was supposed to be face down in the mud behind our house. Neck broken, eyes empty. "You okay?" the cashier asked when I reached the counter. I must have looked shaken. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." On the drive home, the memory replayed itself again and again, more vivid than ever. The colour of the sky, the weight of the chains in my hand, the way her hair had fanned out when she fell. I could almost feel the mud soaking my jeans as I knelt beside her. But my phone, resting in the cup holder, lit up with a new message. "Hello? Are you ignoring me?" I nearly swerved into the next lane. By the time I got to my apartment, my hands were trembling too much to get the key into the lock. I leaned my forehead against the cool metal of the door and took slow breaths. Lily was alive. I had just texted her. We'd had dinner last month. She'd made that black bean chili she was obsessed with. We'd thought about something stupid. Our mother, probably. But the memory didn't care. It sat, heavy and cold, like a stone lodged behind my eyes. I went to bed early that night, melatonin dissolving under my tongue, and dreamed of the swing again. Only this time, when Lily fell, she didn't hit the ground. She hung there, mid-air, as if gravity had forgotten her. The world around us went still. The frogs, the wind, the distant hiss of cars, all silenced. Her head turned slowly, impossibly, until she was looking at me. Her eyes weren't empty. They were full, too full. "Wrong," she said. Her voice echoed, layered, like more than one person speaking through the same mouth. This isn't yours. I woke up gasping, heart pounding. The room was dark. My sheets were twisted. Around my legs, damp with sweat. On my nightstand, my phone buzzed with a new message. BTW, Mum says you still haven't RSVP'd. I stared at her message until the letters blurred. Wrong, she had said in the dream. This isn't yours. I think I'm losing it, I said 2 days later. Dr. Patel folded her hands over her notebook and regarded me with that careful professional patience therapists cultivate. She was younger than I'd expected. When I'd first booked the appointment months ago for insomnia and generalized anxiety, now I felt like I was bringing her something rotten and asking if it smelled weird, or if that was just me. What makes you say that? She asked. I told her about the memory, the swing, the fall, the broken neck, the sirens, how I could replay it in all perfect detail, like watching a recording. I described the smell of the field, the specific weight of Lily's hand when I grabbed it, the exact tone of my mother's scream. And you're completely certain Lily is alive? She asked. I stared at her. Yes, of course. She texted me this morning a picture of her cat in a baby onesie. Can you tell me your earliest memory of Lily after this event? The question stopped me. My mind, usually so ready to flood me with images, went strangely blank. I don't know, I admitted. Teenage stuff, fighting over the bathroom, her stealing my shirt, us watching movies. Any specific moments? Dr. Patel pressed. I dug. There were flashes. Lily at 16, eyeliner too dark, blasting music in her own room. Lily at 20, hungover at Thanksgiving, complaining about our parents' questions. Lily last year, drunk texting me selfies from some bar. But they were fuzzy around the edges, grainy like old photos. The memory of the swing was high definition. Sometimes, Dr. Patel said slowly, people develop intrusive images or memories that feel real, even if they aren't. The brain can misattribute something it imagined or dreamt or heard as something personally experienced. So you think I made it up? My voice came sharper than I meant it to. I'm not saying that. I'm saying our recall is not as reliable as it feels. Have you ever dreamed something so vividly that you woke up unsure if it really happened? Yes, I said, but this isn't like that. Still, she said gently, it might help if you try to verify the facts. Talk to your parents. Ask about that swing set. Ask if any serious accidents happened in your childhood. Reality testing can be grounding. What if I'm right? I asked. What if she did die? Then, she said, we'd have a different conversation entirely. She smiled like it was a joke. I didn't. My mother answered on the second ring. Noah, she said, a little breathless. I was just about to call you. Have you sent Lily a gift yet? She's been obsessing over those weird diaper towels all the other girls' friends get. Mum, I cut in. I need to ask you something serious. She went quiet. Okay, she said cautiously. What's wrong? When we were kids, I said, picking at a thread on my couch cushion, we had a red swing set in the backyard with chains, remember? Honey, we never had a big yard, she said immediately. Just that little patch and the concrete patio. We couldn't afford a swing set. I swallowed. Okay. What about that field behind the house? There was a parking lot behind the house. Now she sounded amused. You running out there drove Mrs. Helms crazy. Remember how she used to call the cops on you kids for playing soccer? My fingers went numb. Parking lot, not a field. I could see the field so clearly. The grass, the frogs, the way the mud clung to Lily's heels. Did anything happen to Lily? I forced the words out, my throat tight. When we were little, like an accident, something serious. My mother's breath rustled against the receiver. Is this one of those therapy things? She asked, wary. Because if she put you up to this, tell Dr. Patel I won't be painted as some monster, because your generation thinks every parent, Mum. I said, louder than I meant to. Please, did Lily ever get hurt? Badly? Did she ever almost die? Silence hummed between us. Finally, she said, no. She broke her wrist in 8th grade falling off that stupid hoverboard. She had strep a lot. Your sister's always been very dramatic about pain. was no life-threatening childhood accidents. Why on earth would you think that? Because I watched her die. I must have dreamed it, I said, forcing a laugh that felt brittle in my chest. Sorry, weird brain stuff. Forget it. Don't scare me like that, she said. God, I swear, between you and your sister, I'm going to go grey before the baby even arrives. We talked about safe things after work. The weather. I hung up feeling like I'd been hollowed out. In the corner of my mind, the field waited, green and wet. The next glitch was small. I was at my desk, half listening to a spreadsheet training video and half scrolling through old photos on my phone. I don't know why I was doing it. Some private experiment maybe. Trying to anchor myself. There was Lily at our cousin's wedding. In a green dress she hated. Lily and me on a hiking trail. Her cheeks flushed both of us, grinning after nearly falling into a stream. Lily on my tiny balcony, cigarette in hand, telling me she was pregnant. All proof, I told myself. Evidence. Real memories with real pictures. I zoomed in on the balcony photo. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. You could see my reflection in the sliding glass door behind her. Phone out, capturing the moment. It sent a weird tug through my chest. That double-layered image of us, framed and reframed. I swiped to the next photo. It was the swing set. Not in a field this time, in a yard I didn't recognize. The red plastic seat. The metal frame flecked with rust. The grass was patchy, dotted with clover. A small white house blurred in the background. My stomach clenched. I didn't remember taking this photo. I zoomed in on the swing. The image pixelated. The chains were dark, almost black, with age. There was no mud under it, just flattened grass. The timestamp said it was taken 3 years ago. I tried to recall where I'd been that day. Nothing surfaced. That blank space where a memory should be. I backed out, thumb trembling, and opened the phone's metadata. Location unknown. No GPS data. That happens sometimes, I told myself. Glitches, data corruption, photos saved from the internet losing their tags. But I had taken this. I felt it. The angle, the slight tilt. It was mine. Wrong, a voice whispered. I jerked around, heart thudding. The apartment was empty. My monitor dutifully displayed the pause training video. A bird chattered outside the window. Get a grip, I muttered. Still, I deleted the photo. It felt like throwing away something rotten. That night, I dreamed of scrolling again. Same photo, same balcony, same swing. Only this time, when I zoomed in, there was someone sitting on the red seat. It was me. Not the me from 3 years ago. Not any version I recognized. This me was younger. Maybe 10 or 11. Legs too short. Too quiet. Touched the ground. Sneakers muddy. He gripped the chains with white-knuckled hands. Eyes squeezed shut. Behind him, someone was pushing. I couldn't see their face. Just long, pale fingers on the rusty chains. The air in the dream felt thick. Hard to breathe. Stop, the younger me said. Too high, I want to get off. The hands didn't stop. I woke up with a taste of mud in my mouth. Things got worse after that. It wasn't just the nightmares or the intrusive images. It was bleed through. I'd be walking down the grocery aisle, and for a half a second, the polished linoleum would flicker into dirt, dark and wet. The hum of the refrigerators would turn into the distant buzz of summer insects. The bright fluorescent lights overhead would tilt toward the purple bruise of evening sky. Then I'd blink and be back in the store. Heart pounding, clutching a box of cereal like a life raft. At work, I'd glance up from my computer and see, instead of my co-workers' cubicles, a wide expanse of grass leading into shadow. I'd smell rain and moss and rust. It happened in the shower one morning. I closed my eyes to rinse shampoo out of my hair and felt cold metal under my fingers instead of a tile. The chains of the swing set, I screamed, slipped, and cracked my elbow on the faucet. At first, I didn't tell anyone. How do you explain that reality is glitching around the edges? But the line between memory and present kept fraying. I started hearing it too. The squeak of chains, the rhythmic creak of metal, the breathless, accelerating sound of someone being pushed higher and higher. I heard it in the quiet between songs on the radio, in the hum of refrigerator at night, in the pauses when Dr. Patel was jotting notes during our sessions. You look exhausted, she said during one visit, her brow furrowing. Are you sleeping at all? Not great, I admitted. Are the nightmares still about the swing? Yes and no. I picked at a loose thread on my sleeve. Sometimes I'm watching it, sometimes I'm on it, sometimes I'm both, watching myself. She nodded slowly. And your reality testing, talking to your family? I talked to my mum, I said. She thinks I'm being dramatic. Nothing bad ever happened. No swing set, no field. Just a parking lot and an anxious kid who probably saw a scary movie. Do you remember any movies like that, around that time? She asked. I thought of a scene from a horror film I'd half watched at a sleepover once. Some kid getting hurt on a playground. I'd only seen a flash before burying my face in my sleeping bag. The mind does strange things, stitching fragments together. Maybe, I said. We spent the rest of the session on grounding exercises. 5 things I could see. 4 I could touch. 3 I could hear. It helped a little, enough to get me through the week. Then Lily went into early labour. She called me at 3 in the morning, voice tight with pain and excitement. It's happening, she gasped. My water broke. I'm at St. Mary's. Get here, now. The world narrowed to that. The drive through the empty streets felt unreal. Silver streetlights gliding over the hood of my car. Every traffic light was green. The radio was off in the quiet. I kept hearing the faint squeak of chains. Not now, I whispered, gripping the steering wheel. Please, not now. St. Mary's smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. The fluorescent lights buzzed. I followed the signs to labour and delivery, stomach churning. Lily's room was small but bright. She was in bed, hair plastered to her forehead, eyes blazing. "Took you long enough," she wheezed, then grabbed my hand as another contraction hit. "Oh my god, I hate this. If I die, delete my browser history." "You're not going to die," I said automatically. The words felt strange in my mouth, like saying there might be tempt fate. "Don't jinx it," she hissed, then laughed, then cried, then cursed. Lily is nothing if not thorough. The hours blurred. Nurses came and went. Monitors beeped steadily. I held her hand and counted breaths, and tried not to think about the memory thudding behind my eyes like a second heartbeat. At one point, a nurse checked her dilation and said, "Almost there, sweetheart." Lily sagged back, sweaty and exhausted. "Tell me something funny," she mumbled at me. "Distract me." "I once puked on my boss's shoes," I offered. She snorted weakly. "I know that one. You're losing your touch." I scrambled for another story. My mind, unhelpfully, supplied only the swing. "Do you remember when we were kids?" I began slowly. "And we used to play outside for hours. Mum would yell at us to come in, and we pretend we couldn't hear." "That's not a memory, that's a lifestyle," she muttered. "Specific, Noah." "In the field," I said. "Behind the house." She frowned, eyes half closed. "Field? You mean the parking lot, with the dumpster that smelled like death?" "No," I said. "The field, with the long grass, the red swing set." Her hand tightened around mine. "We didn't have a swing set," she said. Her voice had gone very soft. "You know that." "Right," I said quickly. "Right, sorry, mixing up with something else." For a moment, though, she kept frowning, like she was searching for something just out of reach. Then, another contraction hit, and the world shrank again. Later, minutes, hours, I couldn't tell. Something changed. The air in the room shifted, went heavier. The monitors hummed at a constant pitch. The fluorescent lights flickered. That is part one of Do You Remember When We Were Kids? If you enjoyed this horror story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it helps us make these for you. 90% of people who watch these videos are not subscribed. Good night. Sleep tight. Hello everybody. Welcome back to part 2 of Do You Remember When We Were Kids? If you enjoy the past 2 episodes, please subscribe and like. Let's begin. I looked up. The hospital curtain at the foot of the bed was moving. Just a little, swaying like something had brushed past it. There was no draft. From somewhere far away, I heard it. Creak, creak, creak. The rhythmic groan of chains under strain. I froze. Did you hear that? I whispered. Hear what? Lily panted. The nurse adjusting the IV frowned. Sir, can you move back a bit? We need space. I stepped away from the bed, heart pounding. The sound was louder now, layered over. The beeps and murmurs of the hospital. Creak, creak, creak. It was wrong. It didn't belong here, in this sterile, bright place. It belonged outside, in the damp, in the half-dark. The curtain rippled again. For a second, between one flicker of the overhead light and the next, I saw something behind it. Not hospital equipment. Grass. Tall and bending. I blinked hard. The curtain showed only shadows. You okay? The nurse asked without looking at me. No, I thought, but I nodded. I backed towards the corner of the room, away from the curtain, eyes locked on it. My breath came shallow, my throat dry. The air smelled like antiseptic, and underneath it, rain, wet earth, rust. The monitor above Lily's bed let out a sharp, shrill beep. The nurse cursed. Fetal heart rate dropping, she snapped. Get Dr. Reed now. Everything sped up. People flooded the room. Voices overlapped. Lily's eyes went wide, panicked. What's happening? She gasped. I grabbed her hand. It's okay. I lied. They've got you. It's okay. The doctor appeared, calm and brisk, barking orders. Someone adjusted the monitors. Someone else turned Lily on her side. For a moment, the curtain at the foot of the bed billowed outwards, as though a strong wind had hit it. It brushed against me. It was wet. I stumbled back. My palm came away, damp and streaked with something brown, green, that smelled faintly of mud. No one else seemed to notice. "Get him out of here," someone said. Maybe a nurse, maybe a doctor. "He's in the way." A hand touched my elbow, steering me toward the door as it opened. The monitor beeped a steady, reassuring rhythm again. "Hurry, stabilizing," someone said. "Good, that's good." In the hallway, the chaos dropped away to a dull hum. I stared at my hand. There was nothing on it. No mud, no moisture, just faint lines, pale scars from old paper cuts. I pressed it to my face anyways. It smelled like skin and sanitizer. For a moment, standing there, I felt utterly untethered, like the world around me was a thin overlay that could be peeled away to reveal something else underneath. Something green and wet and waiting. "Wrong," a voice whispered right beside my ear. I spun around. No one was there. The hallway stretched empty, shiny floor reflecting harsh light. "Why are you taking so long?" the voice asked. It sounded like Lily. It sounded like me. It sounded like someone else entirely. Layers. Echoes. I pressed my back to the wall, sliding down until I was sitting on the cold tile. "This is a mine," I whispered. "Whatever you are, whoever you are, this memory isn't mine." Silence. Then far away, the faint squeak of chains. I squeezed my eyes shut in the darkness behind my eyelids. The red swing waited. I don't remember falling asleep. At some point, someone shook my shoulder, and I woke with a crick in my neck. "Mr. Hart," a nurse loomed over me, smiling. "You can come in now. Mum and baby are doing both fine." The words felt unreal. "Baby," she laughed. usually what comes out at the end of all that drama. I followed her back into the room. Lily looked exhausted, but alive. Dark circles under her eyes, hair plastered down. In her arms was something small and swaddled. "Meet Zoe," she said, voice hoarse but proud. "Your niece." I stepped closer. The baby was impossibly tiny, face screwed up, lashes dark against her cheeks. She opened her mouth in a silent yawn. It was touch and go for a minute. Lily said quietly. Heart rate dropped. They almost took me in for a C-section, but she decided to cooperate. Emotion surged up, tangled and raw. Relief, terror, something else too, something colder. "I thought you were going to die," I said before I could stop myself. She snorted. "Not today, I'm too stubborn." I reached out a finger. Zoe's hand, no bigger than a walnut, closed around it. Reflexively, her skin was warm, soft. A strange sensation washed over me. A double exposure feeling. For a second, as I looked at her, I saw something else. Another small hand, limp and cold in mine. In the mud, my heart stuttered. A voice murmured inside my skull. I jerked my hand back. Zoe started to fuss, face crumpling, a tiny whale building. "Nice, Uncle Noah, you already made her cry," Lily groaned. "Sorry," I said stiffly. "Sorry, I just need some water." I backed out of the room. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, breathing hard. My vision fuzzed at the edges. "Get it together," I told myself. "She's fine, they're both fine. The swing is just what?" An intrusive thought, a misfired neuron. Someone else's experience my brain had decided to steal. "Not yours," the voice agreed. "Never yours." I pressed my palms into my eyes until colours bloomed. "Then, whose?" I whispered. The answer wasn't a word. It was an image. The swing, the field, the moment of the fall. Caught and held, extended far beyond what physics would allow. Frozen, a sense of pause, of selection, like an index finger trailing along a row of books. Not this one, not that, this. A mind, a life, a narrative. Something someone had reached in and taken it. Taken the memory, not the death. Borrowed it. Tried it on. Found it didn't fit. Returned it. No, not exactly. I staggered to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at myself in the mirror. "You're not real," I told my reflection. He stared back, eyes bloodshot, jaw clenched. "Or maybe," the voice suggested, "you're not all yours." In the days after Zoe's birth, things didn't go back to normal. They didn't get dramatically worse either. There was no sudden slide into full psychosis. No grand revelation. No demon bursting through the ceiling to claim ownership of my memories. What happened instead was small. The swing started showing up in more places. A reflected shape in the bus window, flickering behind my shoulder. A child's crayon drawing on the wall of the cafe. A red swing set under a purple sky. The background of an ad on a website, blurred behind smiling stock photo parents. I'd blink, and it'll be something else again. A tree, a chair, a bench. But each time my stomach would drop before my rational brain caught up. At night, the dreams continued. Sometimes I was pushing Lily. Sometimes I was being pushed. Sometimes there was no one on the swing set at all. Just the seat moving back and forth, as though an invisible child was playing. Occasionally, I heard voices, a chorus of children's laughter, distant and hollow. A woman's scream, sirens. Once in a dream, I saw a row of swings stretching off into the horizon. Some were empty. Some held blurred figures. As I watched, one of the figures jerked, slid off, and vanished into the grass. The swing kept moving, as though nothing had happened. "Which one was yours?" I asked, though I wasn't sure who I was asking. "All of them," the voice said. sometimes they don't. Who are you? I asked. Wrong question. It replied, almost gently. Ask who you are. I woke up with tears drying on my face. I started researching memory, not just the pop psych. Your childhood is unreliable articles, but deep dives into case studies, false memories, implanted memories, shared delusions. People who remember crimes that never happened. Siblings who both swore they'd been in the same car crash, even though hospital records showed only one had ever been injured. I found one story about a woman who vividly recalled her brother drowning in a lake. When they were 8, the exact sensation of the water closing over him, the long, awful wait for the paramedics. Except her brother was alive and well. They'd never even been to that lake. Probably a dream, the article concluded, or a story she'd heard about someone else. Maybe, but the description of her certainty, her inability to shake that visceral reality of the memory, that hit too close. I tried to talk to Dr. Patel about it. She listened, nodding thoughtfully. These cases suggest that memory is reconstructive, she said. Not a perfect recording, but a story we tell ourselves over and over. Edited a little each time, sometimes the edits are drastic. What if the story isn't ours? I asked. What if we're telling someone else's story? She tilted her head. What do you mean? Like, what if there was a kid somewhere who really did die on a swing set, and somehow that memory landed in my head instead? Like a stray signal, or a ghost, she supplied, half smiling. Something like that, I said. She was quiet for a moment. It sounds like you're externalizing, she said finally. Making the memory into something other, something else done to you, so you don't have to own it as a product of your own mind. That's understandable, especially if it's distressing. It feels other, I insisted. It told me it was wrong, that it wasn't mine. The memory told you that, she clarified. I paused. Yes. She tapped her pen against the page. Our brains are capable of extraordinary things, she said. We can experience parts of ourselves as external voices. It doesn't mean those voices are literally other entities. It just means your mind is using a narrative device to communicate with itself. You make it sound like I'm a novel, I muttered. In a way, you are, she said. A living story, constantly revised. That night, I dreamed of rows of books on shelves. Some spines had names I recognized. Childhood friends, former co-workers, people I'd seen on the news once and never thought of again. Others were blank. A pale hand slid along the row, pausing here, pulling one out, putting it back, skipping mine. That one, the voice said. Not ready yet, too tangled. I woke up with a sentence echoing in my head. You are not the only place this has been. I wish I could say there was some grand movement of revelation where everything snapped into place, that I discovered some old news articles about a real child who died on a red swing, that I found a long-buried family secret that made it all make sense. I didn't. What I found instead were fragments. A forum post from years ago. Someone describing a childhood memory of watching their cousin fall from a swing in a field by their house. How they called for help. How the cousin had lived, but with a permanent limp. The details weren't quite right. The swing was blue. The fall happened at noon, not dusk. The cousin was a boy, not a girl. But as I read it, my heart pounded in that familiar, nauseating way. Another thread elsewhere from someone who swore they remembered seeing their sister die on a carnival ride. Only the sister was alive. I'd never been to that carnival. The writer described the smell of popcorn and oil, the sound of the sirens. Their therapist had told them it was a panic attack. The stories accumulated, a quiet, uncanny chorus. Memories that didn't line up with reality. Deaths that hadn't happened, but were mourned away. You're collecting them, Lily said one afternoon when she found me scrolling through one of these threads on my phone while we sat in her living room. Zoe asleep on her chest. Just reading, I said. Morbid, she sniffed, adjusting the baby. You always did like sad stuff. Do you ever remember something? I asked slowly, and then find out it never happened. She frowned, like Mandela effect stuff. Berenstain Bears versus Berenstain. The Monopoly guy having a monocle. More personal than that. She was quite quiet for a moment, eyes going distant. Sometimes I dream you died, she said finally. Shock ran through me like ice water. What? She shrugged one shoulder carefully, so she wouldn't jostle Zoe. Like when we were kids. It's not the same every time. Sometimes it's a car accident. Sometimes you fall off the roof. Once you fell into a pool and no one noticed. I hate those dreams. I wake up so mad at you for making me sad. I swallowed hard. Do they feel real? Yeah, she said softly. Too real. But I know they're just dreams because you're here. Being annoying and googling dead kids on my couch. She smiled to take the sting out of it. Do you ever have dreams where I die? She asked. I opened my mouth. The swing flashed behind my eyes. Her bent neck. Her empty stare. No, I lied. Not like that. She studied my face. You sure you're okay, Noah? You've been off, even for you. I'm fine, I said, just tired. It's okay if you're not, she said quietly. I didn't answer. Here's what I've come to think. On the night when the creak of the invisible chain keeps me awake, maybe Dr. Patel is right. Maybe this is all my brain. My tangled knots of anxiety and half-remembered movies and stories. I overheard and dreams I took too seriously. Maybe I'm building a mythology out of neurological noise. Maybe. But there's another possibility that sits beside that one, equal in weight. What if memories aren't as neatly contained as we like to think? What if they leak? What if, when something intense happens, a death, a terror, a moment that burns itself so hard into one mind that it scars reality a little bit? That experience leaves an imprint, a pattern, a story. And what if, sometimes, at random, those stories land in other brains? Not as ghosts or possessions, but as faint echoes, as misplaced files. Most people maybe brush them off as dreams. There's weird deja vu. They shake their heads, say that's odd, and move on. But What if, in some cases, the fit is too good? What if the story slots into a space that was waiting for it? I don't know whose memory I carry. I don't know if somewhere there's a person who really did stand in a field at dusk and watch their sister fall from a red swing to her death. I don't know if, in their mind, the grass was green, the sky as purple, the mud as cold. I don't know if they feel a strange blank space where that day should be. Some vague sense of loss without detail. I don't know if they wake up sometimes and think, that's weird. I know something awful happened once. I just can't remember what. All I know is that, for whatever reason, it ended up in me. And something in that memory knows it. Sometimes now, when the nightmares reaches the moments of the fall, it changes. The swing freezes mid-arc. The child hangs in the air. Slowly, his head turns. Sometimes it's Lily's face. Sometimes it's mine. Sometimes it's blurred, features shifting like bad reception. Not yet, the voice says. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong story. The child's eyes, whoever they belong to, meet mine. Thank you, they whisper, and then they fall. I always wake up before they hit the ground. A week ago, I dreamed something different. No swing, no field, just bookshelves stretching into the distance, like in that earlier dream. Rows and rows of spines, some blank, some with names. One jumped out at me. Lily Hart. Another. Zoe Hart. Another. Noah Hart. Beside them, other names I didn't know. Other lives. Other stories. The pale hand drifted along the row, pausing over mine. Not yet, the voice said, but soon enough, everyone gets their turn. Turn for what? I asked. To end, it said simply. To be written, to be shelved. It slid my book out an inch, then pushed it back in. Until then, it mused, you can borrow. Try things on. That's what you're for. throat, somewhere between hysterical and relieved. Because if that's true, if my mind is a library of borrowed stories, then at least it explains the feeling that has haunted me ever since the first time I remembered Lily dying. That my life, as I recall it, is not a single clean narrative. It's a collage, pasted together from bits and pieces. Most of them fit well enough that I don't notice the seams. But every now and then, something slips. A page from someone else's book lands in mine. A memory that isn't mine settles behind my eyes. And when it protests, when it whispers, all I can do is whisper back, I know. I still see the swings most nights. Sometimes it's empty, moving gently in the wind I can't feel. Sometimes there's a child on it, blurred around the edges, genderless, ageless, mid-laugh. Sometimes in the dream, I'm the one standing behind it, hands on the chain, ready to push. In those dreams, I make myself let go. I step back. I watch the swing slow, little by little, until it hangs still. No fall, no scream, just silence, and the soft, rusted creak of metal settling. I wake up with tears drying on my face, and the taste of rain in my mouth. In the morning, I texted Lily something mundane. A meme, a photo of my coffee, a dumb joke. She sends back a string of emojis, a picture of Zoe drooling on her shirt, a complaint about diaper prices. Every so often, she says, out of nowhere, remember when we used to play in that parking lot? God, that place was ugly. And I write back, yeah, I remember. Because I do, now. Both things sit in me at once. The ugly, cracked asphalt behind our house, and the green field with the red swing in the middle of it, waiting for a child who never quite belonged to me. Neither will ever fully go away. They coexist like two versions of a story layered over each other. One true, one wrong. Both mine. Now, whether I asked for them or not. That is the end of Do You Remember When We Were Kids? Horror story by TSP. Also known as Two Shadows Production. If you want to see more videos like this, like the video and subscribe to the channel.